Okay.
All right, we think we're ready to go. What's going on, Matt? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
All right, guys. So this is Horror Gang TV. We're having our first ever interview with Matt, the director from Acres Films. And Mr. Sandman is the film that we watched, reviewed. You
Yes,
guys might have saw it on our platform a little bit already. First of all, I gotta say, Matt, Mr. Sandman was a great film. It
yes,
actually was.
we really enjoyed this movie so much. And
So
we can't wait to get a little bit more into it with you. But we got some questions for you, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so
yes, sir.
glad you enjoyed it that much. I saw the review. So thanks for the glowing review.
Yes, sir. We just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the horror genre in general, and then also just creating movies and things like that? How did you just get into doing all of this?
Well, I started out as a screenwriter.
Mhm.
And I was basically writing screenplays that I felt would require like the full Hollywood machine behind them. Like it wouldn't be something you could do as an independent filmmaker. And I was sending scripts out and stuff, and I wasn't getting rejection letters or anything. I just wasn't getting anything.
Right.
Basically, you can't even talk to anyone without an agent or manager. They won't even crack one page of your screenplay. So I was like, okay. I'm like, well, let me think about this another way. So I was scrolling through Facebook and I came across an ad for a movie, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And I think the tagline was, if you like Paranormal Activity, you'll love this movie. So I was like, okay, I love Paranormal Activity.
Right.
So I checked it out, and about 5 minutes in, he mentions the local electric company near me. So I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
oh, this guy's local. Okay.
Right.
So now he got his movie on Amazon Prime. And at the time, I didn't realize that Amazon Prime accepts independent films.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, let me reach out to this guy. So I did. He was great. We talked, and he led me through the process of putting an independent film on Amazon Prime. So I'm like, okay. So a light bulb kind of went off, and I'm like, well, if I could start filmmaking and maybe make a little bit of a name for myself, then maybe these screenplays that I have, I can actually end up talking to someone, talking to an agent or talking to a manager. So
Right.
I just started making horror films because it's a genre I love, and it's something, you know, when you're an independent filmmaker, the last thing you want to do is be like, I want to make a superhero film because you
Yeah.
don't have the budget or
Yeah,
the
exactly.
capabilities for something like that.
Yeah.
But scaring someone, there's two things you can do on a pretty low budget if you're creative enough. You can scare people and you can make them laugh.
Yes.
So I but being
I
such
like
a
that.
horror fan growing up, that being one of my favorite genres, I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer. Let me start with horror.
What's your advice if
Yeah.
somebody is like, hey, I want to learn, I want to make a movie, but I don't know where to start or what to do? What's the essentials to start with, in your opinion?
I mean, the first thing I'd say is work within your capabilities.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be horror, but if you're a horror fan, I recommend starting the way I did, which was found footage style movies,
Okay.
because found footage doesn't require traditional knowledge of camera angles, screenplays, what have you. It doesn't have to be traditional style acting. A lot of it can be improv. Start with what's in your capabilities. Don't go crazy worrying about a budget or hiring actors or stuff. Grab a bunch of your friends and just be like, hey, you guys want to try something? Let's all sit together. Let's come up with a good idea, and let's do it where we know we can do it. And then start thinking about places that you have access to. So, for instance, my most popular found footage film, which was called The Challenge, I happened to really luck out and be friends with someone who owned a bar which had a hotel above it.
Mm.
And during the winter, they're shut down. So she let me have free reign of that hotel during that
Wow.
time. So I was like, okay,
That's
here's a golden
awesome.
opportunity. So
Yeah.
you don't realize it, but when you start talking to people, all of a sudden, and you want to get something done, all of a sudden you're going to realize that you have a lot more connections than you think you do. and people willing to do you favors and, not asking for much in return. So, I would say just think about your capabilities, think about something you really want to do, and combine those two. And again, if you love horror, found footage is a great way to start.
Well,
Thank
Matt,
you. Thank you.
it touched a little bit about what I said on the Sandman review about being able to do so much with so little, being able to expand, so much with just like
Just
movies
the
like,
house where
yeah,
you
just in
made
a,
so much out of the house, each room, the stairwell, the hallway.
every inch of the house was utilized, and
Exactly.
you made sure there was emphasis on like certain things to, so I'm always been a supporter of, you don't need a big budget, a
Yeah.
huge budget to make a successful movie.
Yeah.
You just need, what's around you, and like you said, work with your capability. I agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on like using family or friends or whatever as a cast, because I know a lot of people they wonder how am I going to get all of these people in the movie? Who can I, schedule? Who can I hire?
Yeah.
Things like that. So using people that are in your means, that's definitely good. Using any setting that's in your means, house, friends bar,
Yes.
park,
In the
whatever.
woods, like
Woods,
even
yeah,
movies in the
wherever.
80s, all those horror
Yeah.
movies, how many of them came from the
The woods
woods?
are
Yeah,
free. The
quick
woods are
question.
free.
Woods
What
is free.
inspires you? What movies or what things from your past inspired you to create?
God, I wish I could say it's one thing.
Yeah, probably so
It's just
many.
that I draw
Yeah, where do you
um
draw inspiration from?
I draw inspiration from everywhere because I'm a big I'm very big on the quote that I heard George Lucas say, and it was that everything's been done, but not everything's been done by you. So don't stress
Oh,
about
I
that.
love
That's
that.
yeah, that's amazing.
So draw inspiration for whatever moves you. If you look at Sandman and if you really start to pick it apart, there's definitely Shining inspirations.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
There's Poltergeist inspirations.
Yep.
There's Evil Dead
There's a
inspirations.
lot. We were
Yeah.
noticing
We
right
were
off the
counting
bat.
like, because I
Yeah.
was seeing all of them, and like I
We're
was,
like that could have been a Nightmare on Elm Street. That could have been a
yeah.
Shining. That could have been a
There was one I
uh
specifically I wanted to bring up. There was a, I don't, this sounds ridiculous, but it matches up something perfectly that you did. There's an episode of Looney Tunes where it's Porky Pig and Sylvester, and they're in this haunted house. And then like the basement, like the bottom of the house is red. The walls are red and it's dark, and there's like evil thing happening over there, but then upstairs the wall is blue and it's like a calm setting. And like that's what I noticed a little bit, like, because every time the danger is one specific color, and then once you want to calm it down, like the pink and the blue,
in
like
the
I
walls and
I
yeah.
didn't know. I just thought that in my head. I'm like, I found another tie, like what it could be. I appreciate
It
that.
was nice though, the way you just in general, like the way you colored your film and like you made the colors pop at different times. You had
Yes.
the really dark, shadowy, types of angles and things like that. I think you did just a really good job at hitting those types of things. So
Yeah,
Yes.
well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you mentioned like Looney Tunes and stuff, and it's funny because inspiration can come from anywhere. And I'll give you an example that wasn't in this film, but was in my previous film, the found footage film. We
okay.
were right in the middle of filming that, and we're like, okay, well, why don't we have the hand coming up the stairs? And I'm like, okay, how should we shoot that? And my producer said, hey, did you ever see New Jack City?
Oh
And I was like,
wow.
yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you know what? Stop right there. I know exactly what shot you're talking about. Shoot, looking down the stairs
Yeah.
at this hand coming up the stairs like a spiral staircase. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh, it's the last shot of New Jack
Yep.
City. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, stop right there. I
That's
get it.
freaking insane.
Wow.
So
That's
New
freaking
Jack
insane.
City. Shout out to New Jack
inspiration can
City.
come from left field,
Yeah.
and if it just works with what you're trying to say, because your camera angles are your language, and it's like, okay, I want to make the audience feel this way, therefore this camera angle is
I said
You
he
were
has
talking
great
about
angles.
it.
I said his
You were
angles are
talking
fucking
about it. Yep.
amazing.
He
Yep.
likes the way that you just like are
Like
very
I like the
precise.
way you even zoom in on like certain things like the door handle twisting and opening,
Yes.
the facial expressions. It gets a lot closer. You feel it more, you
The
know?
tension builds up very
Yeah.
nice.
yeah, it's camera angles are your language because
Yeah.
it is a visual medium. So you want to you really want to emphasize that because this was our first cinematic style.
Right.
Again, we had done found footage
Yeah,
previously,
we're
but
gonna
this was
check
our
that out
first
too.
cinematic style,
Check
and
that out.
camera angles are so key with, especially with cinematic style.
Definitely, definitely. Okay. All right, so our next question for you. Any future projects you got coming up or anything that we can be looking up for, that any of the fans can be looking out for? I mean,
Yeah.
we want more,
What you
man. We
got?
want
What you got
more.
cooking, Matt? What's you cooking?
We got
Oh,
more.
wow. Well, right now, the only things we have are all in concept stage.
Okay.
So
That's
there
okay.
is a horror in the tradition of The Exorcist, The Omen, kind of like that religious
Ooh,
satanic horror.
yeah.
One of them is a horror comedy.
Hey, you
Another
need
is
those. You need those
Oh
horror
yeah.
yeah.
comedies.
Oh
You
yeah.
need those, especially like
Another is a
scary movies.
straight comedy, which is just comedy because we were thinking like maybe dive into that too. But everything's really just in the concept phase right now. We haven't made a final decision about what we want to do next. It kind of goes back to capabilities. We're looking into some Indiegogo campaigns, some film grants, stuff like that, maybe some film investors to because the budget is going to kind of determine what we can and can't do. Because I'm of the mind that if I can't make it look good, I'm not going to want to do it. So I don't want it to look,
Yeah, you
I
take
love
pride in
that
your work. Yeah,
mentality
you
because
take
yeah.
there's a
pride in your
lot
work.
of these film directors that
They
just
just
put
don't
crap
care.
out
Yeah,
here.
they don't give
They
a
don't give a
shit.
damn what they freaking put out there.
And I understand. And you know what it is? It's like I have a hard time. I've been there. I've
Mhm.
put out less than stellar work,
Right.
and but the
Which
key
is
is
fine,
was
you know.
Everybody
I
grows.
tried to get better each
Exactly.
time is my
Hmm.
goal. So
Hmm.
now that I've gotten to Sandman and it's gotten such a positive response, I want to build off of that and not go backwards. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm glad that you touched on that because our last question for you is this is the Horror Gang TV question. You got everything, any means in the world. We tell you to make a horror movie right now. What's the film?
well, this is actually an easy one because
Oh,
it goes
wow.
back to a screenplay that's already written and, like I said, tried to get pitched around. So there is a serial killer out there taking out all the final girls of famous
Oh.
film franchises. So in the opening scene, Jamie Lee Curtis gets taken out. So if you
Oh,
that way, and then he moves on to the
Nev
other final
Campbell,
girls.
whoever else.
And
That's
with each
hilarious.
final girl, he imitates the killer from that franchise.
That's an
oh.
amazing. I don't see how this hasn't been put into production yet. Who the fuck's passing this up?
Well, the problem is, again, I'm not getting passed up. I'm not getting read. Tell you what, I have a great idea. If you guys drop me your emails, I will be more than happy to send the screenplay over since it's copyrighted and protected anyway. Have at it, read it to your heart's content, and it will
Oh
be
my
your
Wow.
feedback.
God. That's
Yeah,
a fucking
definitely
honor.
send
That's an
that over.
honor.
That'll be
So
great.
Honor.
it is a horror comedy, but it's about a homicide detective who is a movie nut, loves movies, and gets assigned this case about this serial killer.
I'm telling you, just being honest, I could feel like I could easily spend 2.5 hours watching that, So
Yeah,
that
it'll be
sounds like
so
it's
much
right up
fun.
my alley. So
Well, from your lips to Warner Brothers' ears or whoever,
hey,
you
we're
know.
I hope
and
so.
that's exactly what we're trying to do here,
We're
man. Like
trying.
we just want to give everyone a platform. It doesn't matter. We believe that everyone deserves, for just like you say, for someone to open it up, read what they're writing, read, see what's going on, be fair and equal to everyone. Because I feel like nowadays, if you don't have that big backing, it's so easy to just be looked over nowadays.
Yeah, I'm big on and unfortunately I got into this a little later in life, but at the same time I'm really big on not having regrets.
Yeah,
So I would rather, shoot for the stars and not get
yeah.
there, than
At
to
least you
not
know you
shoot at
tried.
all because
Yeah.
then I can at least sleep at night knowing that I tried.
Yes, sir. I can respect that. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the Sandman.
Fire away.
Um, I love the way you set up the beginning so perfectly. The ambiance, the little old freakish like 40s
Yeah, that
little
old clip.
TV on.
That was sketchy.
Perfect. I absolutely love the grandma on the rocking chair. You have to have it. I so when you get into that scene, like what it like to start, because I know it's when you start, you have to set the right tone and all that. What was actually your goal when you were setting up this opening?
Well, the opening, it's not so much that I set up the opening as much as I set up the whole project, and the whole project is based on childhood fears. So,
Scared of the dark.
just talking to you two right now, guess what? You were both kids once.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
Everybody who sees this movie was
Was
a
a
kid at
kid.
some point.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. And when I was talking to people about it before we started filming, I said, okay, well, here's the thing. When you were a kid, did you ever fall asleep watching TV and you had that long, terrifying journey back to your bedroom? Did
yes,
did you hear things? Did you turn the light on and off? Did you see shadows? Did you, imagine there was a monster under your bed? Every kid, no matter gender, culture,
Yeah.
where any part of the world, doesn't
Went through
matter.
that.
We all have that primal fear of the dark because it's innate. It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
To this day, hey guys, listen, I'm about to turn 50 at the end of this month.
oh,
If,
happy birthday.
thank you. But if I cannot sleep with a door open, because I will look down that hallway
Yeah,
No, I
and
feel you.
see things.
I feel
So
you.
if I'm doing that now, as a kid, it was 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
yes,
So
Now I understand it more.
I
Now
knew I had a relatable topic. I knew at the very minimum, obviously, I had to execute it well and make a movie that brought out those feelings in people. But I knew I had a relatable topic. So that was really the jumping off point. And I'm like, okay, well, now let's play a little. Like, now that we know we're afraid of the dark, we can't just be afraid of the dark. There has to be an actual threat there, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I was like, okay, what can I do that's a threat in the dark? Can I do a monster? Can I do a demon? Can I do something? I'm like, oh, Mr. Sandman. I'm like, it's right there in front of me. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not a intellectual property. It's not Freddy. It's something I can use.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
I'm like, okay. So then you get to the opening with the grandma part, and you're like, well, what does almost every horror movie have? An old crazy person
Oh,
yeah,
warning you about something.
yes.
Pet Cemetery, Patriots
Texas
Day,
Chainsaw.
Texas
everything.
Chainsaw. There's always some older crazy person warning
There
you
is.
about the danger.
Yep.
And you still go into it anyway. So I knew
I
that would
knew
make the
you
film.
had that 80s horror movie
We knew.
trope
We
in you.
could
I
tell.
knew
We
it.
could tell.
You
We
know,
could
I
definitely
knew
see it.
I knew it would be I knew that would even though it's a bit of a cliche, I knew it would still be effective. So, and as far as the cartoon, not cartoon, but silent film that was playing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was freaky.
I looked up public domain like cartoons and stuff like that, and I came across that. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm like, it's creepy as hell looking.
Yes,
Yes.
the hell
Um,
it was.
and it's dream slash nighttime oriented, so
Yeah.
it fits with the theme of what I was doing.
That's
So that,
nightmare fuel, if you ask me.
yep.
That thing was just nuts. I want to point out the scene where to just run up the stairs, you know that when the kids turn off the light, you got to run up the stairs quick as hell. You got to run up there
Everyone's
because
done it.
I love the
Everyone's
emphasis,
done it.
the
Yep.
pointing on that. I love that scene.
I knew if I hit a few key things like that, like pulling the feet in under the covers, stuff like that. I knew if I hit a few of those chords, people would be like, "Oh, I absolutely did that." So
Yeah. And I also love your use of like sound effects and things like that. The thunder cracking,
Yes.
the
The doorknob pulling and the door opening slowly. Like every little like sound effect and cue fit perfectly into
yeah,
the scenes.
old orchestra like music
Yes,
that
the
was
opening with the title screen and that little ominous. It's like Halloween, Exorcist. They all start with like a purplish night, dark time. I love that use.
he had a lot of good points in there, man. A lot of good points.
Talk about a little bit about what you thought about what you wanted this character to at least look like or come across as.
well, I wanted him to come across as an abstract. I didn't want him to something to be like so defined. Like I wanted to make sure it was shadowy enough, not that you could truly make out what he was. So I wanted it to feel like a true dream figure where
Right.
you're really not, it's not crystal clear what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with just an apparition? Are you dealing with physical form? You're not really sure, you know? And that's why I also put like a few, more than one dream sequence in the movie, because I wanted the audience to not be exactly sure when they're dreaming, when they're awake. So I
Exactly.
wanted Sandman to be a similar type thing. Like, you know, you can't quite make out what he is. You know, it's a shadowy figure with a little bit of a hint of a face.
Yeah, just a little
Um,
bit.
just enough to give it character, but
Yeah.
without overexposing him. So I and any close-ups, I added a little bit of a blur to the face so that you couldn't
Yeah, it was like you could
make
see
it.
there's a face there, but you can't make out what the face really is, you know?
It's more
Yeah, like I
scarier
just
when you don't know.
Exactly.
so I feel that if you engage the audience by making them think a little and not just presenting everything, you
Yeah.
know, I'm a big believer in that. It's known as
Yeah,
theater
I
of the
love that.
that's
I
what we love
love
in
that.
films. Like I gotta look at this in the film. I'm paying
Yeah.
attention to this. I'm not just watching
The
something, you know?
details matter.
Yeah,
You know, each of
exactly.
these things that they're saying actually means something rather than people just talking,
Or even
rambling.
things that they're doing that they're not saying. Like they might put something down or they may do something. You're like, that is
A
something.
small
Yeah,
little
that's
detail, you
something, you
know,
know?
like
So
right. And
yeah.
it you nailed it. It's basically theater of the mind.
Yeah,
It's what you necessary it's more that what you don't see than what you see, because then
exactly.
you bring your um imagination into it. So if you, one of my favorite examples is Michael Myers mask. It's not an angry demon face. It's not a laughing clown. It is
Just
a
blank.
complete blank
Yeah,
expression.
yeah,
So when you watch Halloween, or you watch Halloween, or I watch Halloween, we each bring our own fears to Michael Myers,
right.
and
yes.
that makes it so effective.
Damn, I never thought about it that
I
way.
love that perspective,
Yeah, I
honestly.
never thought about it that way. That's amazing.
So without giving too much more away, Matt, you want to just tell us about what were some of the challenges and some of the fun things behind the scenes filming
Oh,
Sandman?
that's a good
Any
question.
details or, you know, you'd like to share or
The challenges by far were scheduling. So
You said
I
that.
mean,
I already
we
said that.
again, you're talking about um, you know, a full-time worker, a
Exactly.
full-time student, and my daughter, using my own house, therefore having to schedule around my wife and my other daughter,
Hmm.
scheduling around my producer's schedule, who also works full-time. So scheduling by far was the hardest, and we only had a certain window each night because we could only film at night.
Right.
So it was like you're trying to fit in. If it was a school night, maybe you could squeeze 3 hours in
Couple
before it
hours,
was
right?
like, okay, we got to get her to bed.
Yeah.
And if it was a weekend, the problem is she's also a competitive swimmer. So
Yeah.
she is exhausted a lot earlier than most kids would be on the weekends. So scheduling by far was easily the biggest challenge. You know, but and then you know, as far as like the fun part,
Hmm.
it's fun when you're working with people that you already know. The actress who played the mom, she was in one of my previous films, so that was easy.
Hmm.
The grandmom I had just met for the first time, but she was an absolute sweetheart. And a funny story about her is she went on to do national commercials while we were still filming, because
Wow.
we got her scene out of the way pretty early on. It was one of the first scenes we shot. After that, she ended up being Medicare Martha on national commercials.
Wow.
You could look her up on YouTube. If you type in Medicare Martha, she pops up, and you'll probably have seen the commercial and not even put the two and two together.
That's
So
crazy.
That is so
That
awesome.
is amazing.
so it's pretty funny because I was like, we were still in the middle of filming, and my producer calls me. He's like, "Dude, turn on the news right now." He's like, I turned it
That's
on. I'm like,
hilarious.
son of a bitch. I'm like, she's Medicare Martha now. That's
That's
hilarious.
hilarious.
You got Medicare Martha
That's
in
I got
your movie,
Medicare
so
Martha in my movie, my claim to fame. But
That's amazing.
it's it was there were a lot of fun times, but we did try to stay focused because we had a limited window each time we shot, only a couple hours. So we tried to bang out as many shots as we could. And it's challenging because it's like the difference is with cinematic as opposed to found footage. With found footage, you can kind of let the camera run for almost like 5 minutes at a time, and you'll have a 5 minutes of usable footage. With cinematic, you're talking about 12 cuts within
Yeah.
every 60 seconds. I
Yeah.
think there's a total of right around, give or take, 250 shots in Sandman. So imagine setting each and every one of those up with lighting and everything. So
Yeah.
it was a heavy lift. It really was.
Ooh, wow. Wow. I want to say just another thing. So your daughter was the main lead actress. I just want to
Correct.
say thumbs up to her. She did a great job. I
yes.
loved her facial expressions,
The bathroom scene, I love that scene.
And I was telling him like we met the little pale girl from Terrifier 2. I don't know if you watched, but I'm like, I
Yep.
could see this girl
Yes.
doing something like that very
Yes.
easily. So yeah, tell her I know she got, swimming and stuff like that, but
Tell
acting,
her a great
great
performance.
performance.
Thank you. I will definitely pass that along to her. She's gotten a lot of compliments on her
And tell
performance,
everyone else too, great performance.
and I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be proud of her, more proud of her because she's gotten a lot of compliments on her
Yeah,
performance.
she did.
So, but I had confidence going into it that I could get what I needed out of her, and mission accomplished. She's definitely getting, and she even got an award. So,
Oh
Awesome.
very proud of
wow.
her. Very proud of her.
Well, Matt, just wanted to talk a little bit more. I also love your little the bed scene. I love the little makeup there. I'm not gonna say too much because I want them to go see it. But you know which scene I'm
I
talking
know what
about.
you're
I
talking
love the
about.
way you shot it.
I know what you're talking about. And that ended up having a funny story. I'm not sure if you guys saw the interviews on Tubi, but
We
that had
wanted
a
to wait just because we wanted to talk to you here first,
Yeah,
but
we
we
wanted
did
to
see
hear
okay.
it
from
and we
you.
did like that you put that at the end of the film.
We did really appreciate that, but we
Yeah.
Well,
figured we had to talk to you.
I'm such a DVD fan, and I'm a big believer in
Right.
physical media, and I love special features. So I was like, you know what? Let me put this in. Let me put it at the end of the credits so that if
Right.
people are not interested, they could just turn off.
Mhm.
But if they're movie buffs like me and they like that type of thing, then
Exactly.
they can watch it too. But yeah, the makeup and the contacts ended in a very a short lived, thank God, very bad incident where
Oh,
the contact slipped
to the back of the eye.
up above
Yeah.
her eyeball, and I'll tell you,
Oh,
you want to talk about it, like, it's not scary to film a horror movie. It's just not. There's
yeah.
just too much fun going on.
Hmm.
But that moment was pure terror. I was afraid as afraid can be. And
Oh my
thankfully,
goodness.
that moment only lasted a few seconds. And then she blinks and the
Came
contact
down.
falls perfectly into place.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, are you okay? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, awesome. Do you think we could get the
Let's
shot?
get this clip right now. Let's get the shot right now.
We can't waste.
So
We
I'm like,
Get
can't
it
waste
right
time.
now.
I'm like, please let's get the shot, and then I promise I'll never ask you to wear them
Put
again. And
nothing in your eye again.
she's like, she like she. I got a tearful. Okay, I'm like, quick, let's go, set it up.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, that's good. That's honestly, I'm so glad no one got, injured too
Yes.
crazily.
Yes.
So
Oh wow.
No one got injured on set, thank God.
that's a,
Although when we shot the poster,
yeah.
oh my god, well, that was a November day on a beach,
Oh wow.
and I
Where are
took
you
it.
guys located anyway, if you don't mind me asking?
We're in South Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Ah, man, horror is always in
Yeah.
Jersey.
We're
Everybody's
in
in
Jersey.
Jersey.
Yep. So we shot that on a November day in the beach, and it was freezing. And we had to set up the photograph for the poster and everything because she's buried in the sand and everything.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Haley was bitching at me like there was no tomorrow. So we ran back to the car, and she's only in the nightgown. So we ran back to the car. I cranked the heat, and she made me go right to Dairy Queen for hot cocoa. So
That's hilarious. She's like, I'm gonna
Deserved
get
it.
something
She
out of
deserved
this.
it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
get something from
out
his
of this.
ass.
oh, believe me, there was many nights where I had to bribe her to stay awake with McFlurries, Dairy Queen, stuff like that. So
It all paid off in
It
the
all
end.
paid
it,
off.
it definitely paid off.
Oh, okay. I think that's good. I think
And
we can
thank you so much for
wrapping it
joining
up.
us, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you so much.
no, thank you guys. But before we go, I do have a question for both of you,
Ooh,
and
what's up?
I like to
Yeah.
ask this
No
of
problem.
the podcasters. So, if you could each tell me, without too many spoilers, because I'll know what you're talking about, your favorite scene and why.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say the reveal of the Sandman, honestly. I love the reveal. I love, just like you talked about earlier with, emphasizing a hallway. Like a hallway could be scary. Like you emphasized how scary an empty dark hallway is with the reveal of the Sandman. And I love the little smoke on the bottom.
And I'm also gonna say, for me, I'm gonna say it's gonna be the first jump scare in the film that because I was so anticipating a certain something. I wasn't expecting this, I was expecting something totally different. So the first jump scare for me, that part of the film, it threw us off. I remember watching it the first night, we're both like,
That bed up, I think it's
what
about the
the
bed
hell?
seat, the bed,
It was like, yeah, the bed
the
scene
bed
right in the bed. Yeah,
Okay, so
with the mom.
with
it
the
was the
mom.
mom slash bed scene.
Yeah, that
Hmm
that that got my ass. I will say that got my ass. So that was my favorite scene. But I did also like the reveal a lot. I did like the reveal. So
Awesome, awesome.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you
but
so much,
we
Matt.
hope some of those concepts can be brought to life.
Yeah,
We're
keep us
here.
updated. Keep
Yeah.
us
Yep, me
updated what's
too.
going
And like
on.
I said, if you guys want, shoot me your email. I'll send over the PDF and read it at your leisure. And I would love to hear your thoughts.
We will do just that. Again, Horror Gang TV. This was our first interview with Matt from Acres Films. He's a director. If you guys want to get in touch with him, we'll post any of his
What's your IG? You want to tell them where to
yeah,
find you,
you want to tell
Matt?
him where to find you?
Yeah, pretty much Acres Films is on all the major socials.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, IG, TikTok,
Yeah.
Facebook, X, and an app that a lot of people don't know about, but you guys might be interested in. It's called the Slasher app.
Oh,
It's
wow. I didn't even know that.
it's a social media site for horror fans
Oh,
exclusively.
we definitely gotta be there.
Thank you, man. I don't know
Thank you
how the
so
hell
much, man.
we were freaking left out of the fucking
Nobody tells us nothing,
yeah,
man.
well,
Nobody tells us nothing.
we're out the loop, I guess. But yeah.
Everybody watch Mr. Sandman on Tubi. It's free. Go watch it. Check it out. Message Matt. Tell him what you think.
And is the challenge on Tubi or
The challenge is on YouTube.
YouTube? Okay, so yeah, we want to check that out.
No.
We want the fans to be able to check that out. So you heard him, Mr. Sandman on Tubi. The challenge is on YouTube. Go check out all of his movies. Matt at Acres Films. We thank you so much for
Thank you,
being
sir.
here, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, brother.
All right, brother.